Okay, so in front of me are all of the cubes that I received as Christmas gifts this holiday. And judging by how my channel rolls in the past, I will make sure to feature each and every one of these products at some point on my channel. But this particular video is going to be about the new big cube, which is the MeiLong 11x11. So as you can see, this cube is 11 layers by 11 layers by 11 layers, which means that this cube is an absolute beast. I already did do one solve on this when I unboxed it at my grandma's house on Christmas Eve, as you do, and let me tell you, this cube is some serious fun to solve, but it does take quite a bit of time. If I recall correctly, this cube took me somewhere around 50 to 55 minutes to solve in its totality, which compared to a 9x9, which I've done on my channel before, which usually takes about 25 minutes, for only 2 layers in each direction of an upgrade, this cube does take a significant amount more time to solve, if that makes any sense. So real briefly here, I'll just talk about some of the features of this cube and what I think about it, and then at the end I will have a solve that I actually did on an airplane. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that. So I'll try to be nice and quick here. So for the feel, the cube is absolutely buttery, and if you've ever felt the MF9 or seen one before on my channel, I do have a video about that. I'll put that right up there. It does retain that same smooth feel that really kind of seems like there's nothing to it, which makes this big cube, being as big as it is, an absolute joy to solve on. The one complaint that I would have about the feel is that that centermost layer that you can see right there, the one in the smack dab middle, is pretty rough, but I guess that is kind of to be expected on a cube this big. So for corner cutting, it can do everything up until one little edge piece. Once you hit one little edge piece, it kind of does this thing, which I'm sure it could corner cut if it wanted to, but I don't really want to turn it any further, being how big of a disaster this would be if it exploded. And that being said, who really needs good corner cutting on an 11x11, or in other words, a cube this big? Because it's not exactly like you're going to be speed solving this cube or anything. You could, but then you'd probably have to table solve, which brings up another point, and that's that you don't really need to table solve with this cube. It is a big cube, don't get me wrong, but in comparison to your standard 56mm 3x3, it's really not that big. It's what would that be, like maybe 1 2/3 of a 3x3? So it's really not that big of a big cube. So you can definitely do solves with this in your hand. It's not mandatory to rotate it around on a table all the time. And one last little segment that I want to do in this video before I show you the solve that I did on an airplane is patterns. And everybody loves patterns, so I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite patterns. You'll probably recognize all of them or have done all of them at some point. So here we go, starting with the checkerboard. Okay, so there is our checkerboard. Nothing new, I'm sure you've seen stuff like this before, but on a cube this big, you can't not do the checkerboard. It's just kind of a fun classic pattern that I always like to do. Now we've all seen this pattern before, the square and square pattern, or ironically I'm holding a cube that has circles as the centers, so I guess a circle and a square for this cube. But now we're going to take this pattern and slap it onto this one, except on this one it's going to look an awful lot cooler. And there it is. Let me just flatten it out. Get all the layers even. And there it is. A square and 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 a square. Did I get that right? A square and a square, inside of a square, inside of a square, inside of a square, inside of a square. So whatever you call this pattern, I always think it looks pretty cool. It does depend on the colors that you do it with. You can do it with like different colors and sometimes it looks better. But this is always my favorite one, is to do the white, red, and green, and then on the other side have that orange, yellow, and blue. So hopefully you guys like this one, and on to the next pattern, which is a lot more difficult to make. Okay, I do believe that I have found the pattern on my laptop here, so I'm going to go ahead and test it on a 3x3 to make sure that it works. Yep, that's what we're going to try and do on this cube, so we'll see what we can do. Okay, and there is our very first one, so if I'm correct, I believe I just have to repeat this a lot. Going down the layers, of course, so here we go. Okay, there it is. Let me just get this. Alright, there it is in all of its glory. How cool does that look on a cube this big? That is just really cool. Yeah, this has always been one of my favorite patterns, but I actually never knew the algorithm up until now. I've just been looking off of my laptop here on the left. So this is a real cool pattern, so hopefully you enjoyed that little pattern segment, and now on to the last part of the video, which is the airplane solve. So I will see you guys later.